So, have you ever wondered when a simple promise, the kind you might make to a family member, actually becomes a real legally binding contract? It's a fuzzy line for sure, but there's a fascinating case from way back in 1888 that really helps us understand where that line is drawn.
I mean, really think about that for a second. If you promise your spouse some cash every week to manage the household finances, can they actually sue you if you stop paying? It's a wild question, and it gets right to the heart of what the law considers a contract in the first place.
You see, the law's default position is pretty straightforward. It basically assumes that when you're making promises to family or friends, you're not planning to take each other to court over it. It's supposed to be a private thing, not a legal battle waiting to happen. And there's a name for this. It's called the domestic presumption. It's kind of like the default setting in contract law. The court just presumes you weren't trying to forge a serious, legally binding deal with your loved ones. But, and this is a huge but, it's only a presumption. And presumptions, well, they can be proven wrong. This is really where you see the law draw a line in the sand. On one side, you've got your social or domestic promises, like, I'll get the next round of drinks. The law assumes there's no legal intent there. But on the other side, you've got commercial deals, signing a lease, buying a business. The law presumes you absolutely intend for that to be legally binding. The real drama always happens in that gray area right in the middle. Okay, so let's hop in our time machine and go back to 1888. This is where we meet the McGregors, the couple who put this entire legal idea to the ultimate test. Their story, McGregor versus McGregor, would go on to set a huge precedent in the world of contract law. So things were not going well for the McGregors. Their marriage problems had gotten so bad that they had both filed actual legal complaints against each other. To try and cool things down, they worked out a separation agreement. The deal was he'd pay her a weekly allowance, and in return, they'd both drop their legal cases. Seems like a pretty grown-up solution, right? Well, here's where it all fell apart. Mr. McGregor stopped making the payments, so Mrs. McGregor sued him. His defense, he argued it was just a private family arrangement, not a real contract. But she fired back, saying, no way, this was a serious deal with real-world consequences. So who was right? Now, the court had to look beyond the fact that they were a married couple and really dig into the heart of their agreement. The whole case, literally everything, boiled down to one single question. When they made that deal, did they actually intend for it to have legal teeth? And the court's logic here was pretty straightforward. The judge basically said, look, this wasn't some casual promise made over coffee. These two were already involved in a legal battle. The very act of agreeing to withdraw formal legal complaints showed that they were treating this agreement with a whole different level of seriousness. Their actions proved they meant business. And with that, the decision came down. The court sided with Mrs. McGregor. That separation agreement wasn't just a simple domestic promise. It was a full-blown, legally binding contract. Mr. McGregor was on the hook for the money he'd promised. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Okay, cool story, but it's from the 1800s. Why should I care today? Well, it matters a lot because the ideas that came out of this one ruling are still the bedrock of how we understand contracts today. Let's break down what this case really teaches us. First, it shows that the domestic presumption isn't some ironclad rule. You can totally overcome it with the right evidence. Second, it hammers home that intent is the absolute key. It's the magic ingredient that turns a promise into a contract. Third, it pretty much established that separation agreements aren't just casual chats. They're usually binding. And finally, the fact they both acted on the agreement by dropping their legal complaints made it that much stronger. So, when you boil it all down, what's the big takeaway? It's that context is everything. The law looks at the whole situation. If the circumstances show that two people were treating their promise seriously, with real stakes and real actions, that's the moment a simple family arrangement can cross the line and become a contract a court will actually enforce. And that kind of leaves us with a final question to think about. What about the agreements in your life? Loaning money to a sibling, splitting bills with a roommate? Which of those promises are walking that fine line and might be a lot closer to a real contract than you realize? Thanks for watching.